Okay. Aloha, awakea kako. The Kona Community Development Plan Action Committee will now come to order. It is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. The time is 12:03. This meeting is being held in person and by interactive conference technology. The meeting will also be recorded and uploaded to the Planning Department's YouTube channel. As a reminder, per Sunshine Law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who's with them except for minors in their location. Before we do the roll call, I'm gonna kick it over to Charlie. Charlie's offered to continue the Olelo no Eaus at the start of the meeting.
Sure. I started incorporating the Olelo no Eau before the meetings to bring us into the present and where we are, where we live, and why it's important the work that we do. So I tried to select Olelo no Eau that helps set the tone for the meeting and the subject that we're going to, but it's also to share with council members. So this, we're starting a new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's almost over. So the no Eau I use today is Elabe, Ikeao, Amalama, Aeoi, Mau ka Nao Mau. And the translation is he who takes his teachings and applies them increases his knowledge. And this is what we're doing. We're teaching each other and we're learning from the work that we do. Most importantly for us too, though, is that we share that with the community and with all the people that we are supposed to touch within the county. So I wanted to remind myself of that as well as you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
And just say this is a very fine one, and I also say that when I learned it, instead of knowledge, wisdom was the word.
Yeah.
And wisdom is
Now,
a different thing, not a word.
right.
All right, so we'll do the roll call now. We'll start with committee members. Nancy, if you want to start.
I'm Nancy Pisicchio and I'm vice chair and I live in Keho.
RJ Kirchner, committee member, and I live in Kona.
I'm Charlotte Thompson. I live in Kona. I'm also a CDP member.
Charles Young from Kealia, committee member.
I'm John Pelletier. I am the chair. I live in O'oma, and we have quorum to hold this meeting, noting the absence of Rosalind, unsure about Shane, if he's actually on or not at this moment. County staff, if you want to introduce yourself next.
Hello everybody, Mario Hall, the community planning section in Long Ridge.
Jan Ponto with the community planning section in Long Ridge.
And I'd like to introduce our newest member of the Long Range team, Elizabeth August. She's our new clerk and just started this week or last week, so.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
And then we have, is it Cabello on Zoom?
And Cabello should be on this.
Awesome. So just some housekeeping, please make sure your cell phones are turned off or on silent mode. If there is anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign up form and give it to our staff. Zoom testifiers can raise their hand or send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating which item they wish to testify on. We ask that everyone please state your name before speaking. Okay. Yes, Mamaku?
Yeah, just to let them know, I'd like to.
Okay, yeah, if you can give that to, Miriam. To everyone attending in person, please remember to speak towards the owl so that everyone on Zoom can hear you. All right, so the first item on the agenda, we're gonna approve the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the draft minutes from December 9th, 2025 meeting?
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Charlie, seconded by RJ. Any discussion on the minutes from the previous meeting?
I had one comment.
Okay.
In the meeting for the AMP is scheduled for January 10th, not the 12th.
Hmm.
It says 12th again. Now, I don't know if I misspoke at that time or we got it wrong in the minutes, but it should be January 12th.
Okay. Is there anything we should do specifically for amending the minutes or?
I think just note, yeah, that got noted. And
Okay.
then you can, motion and all of the minutes as amended.
Okay. Any other amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, all right, on the vote to approve the minutes with the amendment, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved with the amendment. Thank you, Charlie, for catching that. Okay, we'll move on to public testimony on the agenda items. The time is 12:08. Committee will call for statements from the public. As stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called. Also note at the end, after the agenda, we do have public testimony for matters not on the agenda. If you have something you'd like to speak to that's not on the agenda. Public testimony may be limited to 3 minutes in length per agenda item. If there is anyone here who'd like to testify, please fill out by signing with the form, or I'll give it to staff. Is there anyone in the room with us that would like to testify in the agenda? Lamaku, do you want to testify now or when the item comes up?
When the item comes up,
Okay,
what number is it?
yeah, you talk about the LE Parkway, it is item 5, yeah. Anyone else? Jeff, you interested in testifying? No? Okay, then on Zoom, Janice, are you interested in testifying?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can go for it whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks. First, I wanted to thank you and Nancy for your service as chair and vice chair. Really appreciate that. And for Charlie outgoing, appreciate his service as well. On Bill 63, I want to chime in when you guys are talking about it. I missed the meeting. I'm interested to hear what the meeting for the council, interested to hear what the amendments are. I remain very skeptical about the value and even the intentions of this bill, and ask that the committee members, well, our newest one isn't there now, but that committee members, take a look at this deeply and think of it as its effects on the KCDP, TOD, particularly the TOD concept. The last thing I want to mention, and I think I might have at the last meeting, but in case I didn't, my nomination was turned down by the mayor for the AC. And I know this is kind of odd, but I wouldn't mind if anybody who thinks that is also kind of odd when we're seeking applicants constantly, if they might call the mayor's office. I asked if, we could have a chat and see, and I know that it's the mayor's right to nominate who he wants. At the same time, it makes me concerned that other people may be being denied for reasons that I can't really understand why he wouldn't nominate me unless it was because of my views. And I think that what's been so great and made this committee vibrant is that we do have diversity that is promised through the CDP. And, that is one of the tenets, is that we have a really good diverse group to present the views, concerns, and needs for the future of all the residents in our region, and that's relating to development and growth and all the other parts of the CDP. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll be hanging out at the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you for your testimony.
Yeah.
Any other testimony before we start the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to business. The time is 12:11, and we'll move to business item number 1, which was supposed to be welcoming our new AC member. Not sure if he's actually sworn in or not yet, so maybe we just defer this item until next meeting or later in the agenda if he shows up later. Do we need a motion to defer, or can we just?
No. You don't
No.
need to-
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to business item number 2. Is there any testimony for business item number 2? Tree City USA program. AC member Thompson will provide an update on the county's Tree City USA designation related efforts with discussion and potential action to follow. Any testimony on this agenda? Oh, Janice?
I just want to say one thing. One thing I was thinking about in their discussion on the committee is incentives to not cut down trees. I just had a really interesting conversation with my neighbor on Walua Road. They have a beautiful Royal Poinciana tree, and it was actually in bloom when we were looking at our place to buy our place 25 years ago. And we were just, it was such a welcoming thing. And there's a lot of nice trees up here, but that one was particularly great. And a couple weeks ago, it was getting cut down, and they actually just butchered it so far. I had my arborist friend go look at it and see if it could be rehabilitated. But the reason they cut it down is the old man that owned the house, his daughter had taken it over until he can come back. And they were worried that they would get sued for the pods falling on a car or causing an accident. And I just think that, our county, we really need to address incentives for people to keep their trees and not be afraid of things like that. I mean, the tree's been there for way longer than I was here in this neighborhood. And all the neighbors have been, upset. The neighbors next door already cut off a big giant limb of it, which was, worked out. But I hope that the subcommittee, and I hope to help you too. You got, I don't want to just give you suggestions. And I have been trying to contact, the county about that. But I think that, incentives for keeping trees is going to be really important. There's been so many cut down, but this one was just, right here. There's one really nice ones on Kuakini that were cut down, in the last year. I know you guys know about that. But anyway, yeah, been thinking a lot about incentives and how I'm sure there's other places around the country and the world that have good ideas for that. So.
That's a really good point. I've been really concerned about that too. We've got some construction going on down the street and they've cut down like 3 gorgeous monkey pod trees. It just broke my heart. Yeah, there is a lot of butchering of trees instead of letting them grow into shade trees. So it'd be great to be able to address all of that. I'm not exactly sure how to go about it, but and it definitely be pursuing that. And the exceptional trees program may help to some degree.
Yeah.
Stay to get all
And also a tree management plan, which we don't have yet.
which we don't have yet, but we
That-
will.
yeah.
One of the next
Not soon enough,
the next thing to work on.
not soon enough. There's gotta be something to add.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, I figured that you guys were looking into that. So I appreciate it.
Oh, yes, Lamaku.
Can you hear me here?
I can hear you, yes.
Just to add on to the subject, while I was at work in the lobby of King Kamehameha's Kona Beach Hotel, maybe about 10 years ago, a realtor came running into the room at 7:00 p.m. Said, please, please, please pray for me. What is it, sir? Please sit down. We just cut 11 ulu trees in up above Polua. This has been going on for years, and this one committee will not fix it. That's what I care to add.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks, Lamaku.
Do you want to give your?
I would love to. So, I'll cut to the quick right away, and then I'll go backtrack a little bit as to how it happened. We have a signed application for Tree City that I submitted this morning. Holeka and Ava signed it for us. After I got a kind of a jolting email, I was shocked that after all of it looked like the mayor had supported all of our deadlines, and we got our proclamation done for Tree City. Was at our advisory, Arborist Advisory Committee appointed and sworn in, and they had their first meeting for the end of the year. We got our budget figured out, we got the application done, it was just needing his signature. And then I got this email from his executive assistant who said, thank you for reaching out. I forwarded the application to Mayor Alameda for signature. Upon review, Mayor feels that we have met all the standards, the Tree City standards, there are 4 of them, and that it is unnecessary to enter into a formal agreement. He will not be signing the application for this reason. And I'm going, what formal agreement? This is a recognition program. So I responded and I said, I think there might be some misunderstanding. There's no formal agreement, as Tree City is simply a recognition program, that it gives our community organizations a favorable status as they apply for grants. And so of course, immediately I sent something to Miriam to the in urban forestry and go, what do I do? And Miriam had noticed, and she looked at the application and she said, there is a phrase in here in 2 different places. It says mayor or other city official. And so she sent a little note to Leah that said, what about this? Can we get someone else in that, maybe the county council to sign this? And she said, yes, we can. So I had just read this wonderful quote. And I had sent it to Miriam and I had sent it to Leah when I got this note initially. And it said clergyman and writer Basil Kingan from the Power of Decision Action. He says, go at it boldly and you will find unexpected forces closing round you and coming to your aid. So I sent that. It was from the sources, The Conquest of Fear. So I said, thank you for coming to my aid. And so anyway, I sent something to Haleka. I have to be in the airport on my way back from Oahu from a treatment that I got in Oahu. I'm waiting to get on the plane, a little bit disoriented from everything. And Haleka calls me on the phone and he says, how can I help you? And I said, well, this is what's going on. And he says, send me the information, send me the application summary. And yesterday, or this morning, he sent it. So, I mean, talk about last minute, but here it is. So, I went ahead and submitted it already, finished up in the portal. So now I'm just waiting to hear, the final, it's done. And then it's on to even, planting plans and things like that for our county, getting grants.
Well, thanks
things
for
like that.
sticking with it. It's nice that Holeka signed it, but I guess I feel the big picture that if the mayor doesn't understand the program and doesn't support it, we'll get stuck. Because
That's
there are a
right.
lot of things that, the next steps that are gonna require administration support.
That's absolutely right.
But this will get us a little further down the
I
road.
think that it'll, I think maybe, once we start the process, really working towards a planting plan and finding funding to do that, and I think we can. Maybe even through the urban forestry, foundation or department, or because they do, they have helped Maui do their plan. It wasn't just a one-time grant, it was over, I don't know, a few years. So, I know the funding is out there and available. And, Jill Wagner from the advisory committee is, excited, and she's got the same focus, but she doesn't know how much, permission she has to really press into some of these matters. But the thing that impressed me is that there are so many people that kind of came out from behind the scenes to say, great, we're right behind there with you. We'll help you make a presentation to the county council. Everybody's just out there and willing to help. So I have a lot of people to thank. Just to get to this point, we'll see what actually happens. And I would love for the mayor to have changed his mind. And I know there was somebody, I won't mention any names, that's gonna kind of talk to him a little bit about it. I would love to see his name on it. We'll send another one.
He may need more education.
I think that's more, I think he just doesn't understand. He didn't read what I sent along with the summary. He just, I think he just didn't understand. And that this actually kind of a feather in his cap to do this, I think. I think he just didn't understand that.
Sounds like you've done a lot of work. Do you have support, like you mentioned, the forestry? How about Kona Outdoor Circle? All of these.
Working on that.
What's that?
I said I'm working on it. I have to talk to Sue.
Because it sounds like their program should be just a shoe-in from all of these.
There's a lot of work to do, and there's so much we can do for this island through this program. I'm really, really excited that we've gotten this far. I really hadn't dreamed. I mean, maybe I had dreamed that this would have happened this quickly. I kind of expected to hit a lot of roadblocks and it take a couple years, which I was willing to pursue. But, Nancy was right there all along, and Marianne, hello.
Keep going, because a lot of people move here and they're drawn here by spirit. and they learn of our traditional ways
Mhm.
and they're clean. But before they learn of the traditional ways, they're out there cutting, doing like they
agree.
were on the mainland. This, I have to say, I'm much more verbal on this now, because it must be brought to the attention. And people must become conscious of this. This is Honolulu. This is what makes big things happen on high levels, and that's what my testimony is today.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that a lot of it is a spiritual thing. I think that that's why we're here, you know, as far as we've gotten right now, because I'm nobody, I don't know anything. And I am such a novice at all of this, but there's just been favor. And people that know more than me have gotten on board and really helped me get to this point. But that was one of the main things that drew me into Tree City was the trees and disappearing of trees and maybe weather patterns changing. No shade, it's cleaning our water for us. It's doing so much and, we need them.
Totally,
Yeah.
thank you.
So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Shirley.
everybody here.
Yeah.
It's really been a big part of this.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you recognize this as like not the end goal, right?
Oh,
This
no.
is kind of just the start to get us
This
to
is a
get grants.
door
It's a
opener.
great thing that you've done, yeah, and I think it's a great doorway also. I appreciate you continuing to work on this. Like we heard from Lamaku and Janice, this is a huge issue and
I know you've worked on it.
we need a lot of work, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I
Yeah.
make a comment? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, is the placement of Iere and Pico at the base of trees. This is very, very significant in spirit. And this is one of the traditions that I can speak about in importance to certain trees. And only the people of the land can talk about them. I have told the state to always use their funding to do oral histories. Do you think they ever listen to that? No, including with the Parkway. No, not one. So as a result, they are hearing why this is not acceptable. Even more so, it's never gonna stop and never gonna be allowed.
Janice, did you have something to add?
Just very quickly, I just think that there is a pattern of the mayor not maybe understanding about the CDP. I had a conversation with him a long time when he first got elected, and I'm just wondering, and not specifically to Tree City, but, you know, I'm just wondering how, you know, what his interaction is and if, you know, what the education, process could be. I mean, maybe I don't know if it's right for him to come to a meeting. I know we're supposed to keep this is administrative. So yeah, I mean, maybe just, sometimes when you see something in person and you see the people in person and you hear the discussions, that can give you a broader perspective on actually what that committee or commission is doing. And I think the action committee is kind of unique and the CDPs are unique entities. And I don't know if that's just something that might be able to happen. And but thank you. And thanks for all the hard work.
Thanks, Janice. Any more discussion on this agenda item? Thanks again. So when will we find out? So the application's not submitted yet.
Yeah, it's been submitted.
Been submitted.
Yep, so, Leah has to, approve it and then send it on to the Arborist
Awesome.
Foundation. So, I think that she's already kind of helped me along. I've had her review things as I went because I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing my best and said, will this qualify for this? Will this qualify for that? And she said, yes, it looks good. Everything looks good. Finances look good. So, now she just has to send it on and hopefully they approve it and we're all good to go.
Awesome.
I just had a question, so the mayor doesn't have to sign the resol, but with the county council signing it, does that, a member of the county council, the chair?
Yeah.
Does that mean it's gonna go through the county council or it's just done because he signed it?
It's done. I mean,
Okay.
it means that we will be at Tracy as long as
Yeah.
Arbor Foundation approves it,
Right.
then we will be considered a Tree City.
Okay, so it sets us on the path.
Right.
To finalize.
Right,
Okay, good. Good work. It's been a long time.
yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah.
Alright, well, if that's it, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Go to item 3, the Calvo Aquifer System Area Groundwater Adaptive Management Plan. AC member Young will provide an update on recent efforts related to the AMP, followed by discussion and potential action. Is there any testimony from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, Charlie, if you want to go for it.
Yeah, sure. The meeting was on January 10th, as I said, just correcting myself in the minutes. I thought it was an excellent meeting. There are other people here who were present.
It was a Seaworm meeting?
It's a Seaworm meeting, so Seaworm convened it, and it was by invite only.
Was it their regular meeting or is it specific to this?
No, it was what is called a sharing session,
Mm,
so it's not a Seaworm public hearing. So it's just a session, sharing session.
What is seaworm?
Excuse me,
Excuse me, what is seaworm?
Commission on Water Resource Management, it's a state entity, not a county. Okay, so, and that's important because, the deputy, manager, Hira. First thing she opened with is what they are and what they are not. Okay, so, they don't have jurisdiction over many of the things that the public is concerned about. It's false. This is why I brought it up before the action committee. So, I believe we should pay attention and stay involved with their process. The sharing was really to bring certain views together, the scientific as well as the cultural aspect of it. So the scientists each made presentations on their area of expertise, which was in the area of hydrology, the area of pollution, and the area of indicators. Indicators meaning that what should we be looking at if there are changes? One of the things that are going to tell us we have changes in the water quality. And the pollution is, much of it is actually not in the seaworm decision-making process. It's more in the county DOH. So, and the third one was, four, the cultural aspects of it. And, so what did I name yeah, so the idea was really to cross-pollinate the different, scientists, because they were working in silos. They were working specifically on their area of expertise. So what the meeting was meant to do was to cross-pollinate all the interests, including, some other community people who were being affected. So I thought it was an excellent meeting or session, because something like that has never happened before. And I think from the and of course, my concern was really from the cultural aspect. So, my takeaway is that we're there in the early beginnings. We're not having to wait or not being taking part in the process toward the end. But Kira did mention that it's going to be a long process, and so I think that's something we got to be patient for. And she's saying it may take maybe 3 years. So what they're doing now is they're trying to put together all the information they got from the science and the cultural people who are advised culturally, and put that into some kind of a form where they can provide measurements. So where are we gonna measure, what we're gonna measure, how long, the indicators, where the pollution is coming from, what's the real hydrology. The hydrology is gonna be the biggest challenge, I think, because there's really nothing certain about it. In terms of how much water is there's 3 aquifers that we're dealing with. One is the high level, one is the basal, and then there's one called the deep confined, which is going underneath the aquifer and coming out in the ocean. So they need to better understand how those interact because we don't know. There's no one who really knows how much from the high level gets down into the basal, or whether the basal is being affected by the deep confined. So those have to be determined, so there's gonna be a lot more science in there, to be learned. And so one of the things that we were advising on also, or working with the scientists, how might that best work, you know, given where we are, given some of the place names that we already have, so incorporate place names, you know, Hawaiian place names, because they describe the area really well. So I think it was a good meeting because we were able to sit one-on-one with the scientists and not just have them do some advisement and then it goes out to the people. So when the final, there'll be a final draft, I don't know how soon that's gonna be, but they're gonna share it with the invitees and we're gonna be able to, you know, share that out. Then the process after that is gonna go through even more, you know, public input. The final result is if they come up with a recommendation and they're saying maybe 3 years away, that'll have to go through, well, not have to, but by process, CWRM, the Commission on Water Resource Management, has to approve it, and that's the end. Now, much of the comment from the people who attended and the residents here in particular is that water management is a big issue. Water resources is a big issue for Carroll, and much of the concerns are really somewhere in the county's realm. Zoning is one, the pollution with the sewage is another, and then the DOH, because they monitor and they set the, you know, the guidelines. And the county's already behind the 8 ball because they got 53,000 cesspools they gotta fix by 2050. So the important thing was that CWRM understood that they have to work in each area jurisdictional area. They can encourage, but they cannot make the decisions for the, you know, the individual areas. Of individual jurisdictions. But they have committed that they're going to collaborate with all of them. So I think we'll get a more whole product at the end. But again, it's just gonna take time. Now, originally, everyone thought, oh, we can handle this in, you know, 1 year, not. So it's just gonna take longer. They have funding to do this, so I think they're gonna continue with the process as long as the funding, you know, continues. So at least the deputy managing director was committed to it, but then again, she's reported to you know, the chair of the DLN. So there's more to be determined, but I think we're off to a good footing. And so I'm looking forward to participating as much as I can, but because it's a long process, I foresee being able to bring more people in the process and maybe in and out, you know, it's just gonna take a long time. So I guess if I had any recommendation for the committee is that we somehow include the county in the conversation early on as well, so that they're not just dealing with CWRM, they're dealing with the action committee and the community we represent. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I think we should be looking in that direction. So that's all I have to report now. It's very preliminary and there's really no decisions that have been made of any consequence. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments on it.
I was just wondering what happened with the funding for the monitoring wells from last legislative session. Have they made any decision about what they're gonna do about that?
Yeah, so the monitoring wells are gonna be dependent on what they come out with the AMP, because they gotta make sure they're monitoring the things that are important.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so one of the questions was whether the deep confined water is interacting with the basal lens. So they are able to measure the thickness of the they're going to measure the thickness and they're able to measure the depth of the deep water confined and the basal lands. But they rise and fall with the tide, the basal lands does. So they're talking about putting monitors right in the salt to freshwater zone. So that they can see what the height is of what the variables are. Also, there are wells already that can be converted into monitoring in the high water level areas. So these things all gotta be discussed and decided upon, then you gotta get more funding. So the injection, not the injection, but the monitoring wells are already on the menu. It was, in fact, it was one of the first things that was recommended to CWRM. And location will be based on, you know, geography, hydrology, but also on cultural information. You know, because much of the shoreline is described in Hawaiian, and you know, Hawaii was a very important piece of that. So, but again, it's preliminary. But some of these things, you know, bubbled up, I think, in that, which is a good thing for us. One of the indicators that they're gonna be looking at is limo, because they react very quickly with fresh water or without fresh water. But some limo are, you know, present in some years and they're not in other years. They're cyclical and they're seasonal. So anyway, I think there's a lot more room for cultural input. I just, because the scientists were, I think, presently surprised that how much information is out there through the oral histories and through some of the practices. So that's all I got to report.
I'm glad you're sticking with this so we can keep up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, it's just gonna take time now, and I think it's just gonna be a gap in terms of how long it's gonna take them to synthesize all that information that they have.
How important is the water? I have a question.
Yes.
Can I ask it? A couple questions. Charles, did they, in the discussion, have they ever talked about blasting open any aquifers?
You mean in the past or in the future? Yeah, no, we brought it up.
And what happened?
Well, see, again, CWRM doesn't have the, well, I won't say that, that's not certain, for sure. As far as we know, they don't have that, they approved it, obviously, because it's water. I don't think they've addressed the results, though,
Approved to do what?
to do the blasting,
To do blasting?
for Honokaha Harbor. I'm
Oh,
talking about
yes, for
specifically.
that instance.
Right, and reports are that there was a basal bench there full of water, and that was broken.
Mhm.
And some of the indicators are now that some of the KLAK wastewater is being emptied, you know, into the harbor, probably through that vessel. What's that?
Anywhere else on the island, Hawaii Island?
We're concentrating only on KO aquifer, so we're not looking outside of that, but that's the only one that I know of, there may be more. And all of this will come out in the discussion.
You could say that it is probably the most important, because in relative to us, how important is water, right?
Yeah.
And, I wanna say that it is the greatest gift of God to us. And you need to have far more than cultural, you need to have spiritual guidance. And I will, in my testimony today to you, you will hear more of what I'm getting at, because it's precisely what we need to have done. The gift of water was from God. Simply said, not you, not me, from God. And who knows God best but the people of this land? And they are not just people who go down and are interested today in living on this island or that. They are people who are definitely from here and cite their genealogies and their locations, their history through the overthrow, how they did survive the overthrow. This is very, very important for everything related to our lands. And by the way, I'm very glad to hear this of this community, because water is the most important. but not most, but important. The Vayakani, there are the 7 deities. Kane, Ku, Lono.
Yeah.
And we can go on, but Kane, these are the things that you folks don't know the first thing about. And
Yes,
neither do the people in the government here.
well, one
So
of the
this is
big,
being brought forward by Akua now. My testimony to you today will give you more of an idea. My testimony begins at Kaloko Honkohala. Did you know that no one wanted that harbor? No one wanted that harbor. This I'm reporting from, a hearing down that took place at a commemoration that was carried at the park. Where the testimony was, there was no one that wanted that harbor because the element of focus was on sovereignty. At the time that harbor was on the agenda. More people were on the idea and the subject of sovereignty. That's about where it ended up. Well, guess what? It's going back to that subject right here and now by me. Because need is here for mankind all over the earth, not only here. I brought this because this is about the subject now. It's for the earth.
Mika
And our
Holland,
lands here
I'm
have relevance and very great importance to the world. So thank you for hearing that. And I wanted to ask that because the first waters here, I know, were given by God. And no blasting would ever have taken place. Do you do that to God who gives you everything, life and so forth? So this is what modern man has to come to grips with, and Hawaii is about ready to teach everyone. Hawaii means the ha, the breath of the ha, the breath, the spirit in the fresh water of Most High God. Before we were Hawaii, our name was Kalua Okalani, the second heaven. These things I know right from source, for I am Lamapu. I am named the standing torch. I am the first Lamaku of the modern era. From the beginning of time, our people have had one chosen representative by Creator to be a representative with Creator. I am she for this modern era. And so my testimony has gone to the legislature as well as the county. So thanks for letting me, I always have to we're only given 3 minutes. I always have to grab 3 minutes where I can get it.
Well, there are other people that want to
Yeah.
talk specifically to Charlie about his testimony that are waiting, so thank
Yeah.
you.
They can wait like I waited,
Okay.
We all stick to 3 minutes, we can go through it.
but that's not long enough.
Kayla, you wanna go?
I have some comments on the, what has been reported, which is a good report from Charlie. And just for the record, I'm Kayla Childs. I did some reading a few months ago regarding this issue, and my understanding that the Keoho Aquifer, as it's termed, has our percentage of drawdown currently is something like 38%. It's less than 50% of what, under the model of analysis, has been in place for decades, of there just being a single aquifer plus purged water up above, and now no deep water confined water. That's a new discovery within the last 10 years, which is not yet part of the package. So if we forget about the untested, unqualified, unquantified, confined basal lens, that's may have as much or more flow because it's coming from Mauna Loa, according to the reports from the hydrologists that are meeting, Donald Thomas and the others, is by mineral content, not from walleye, it's from Mauna Loa. And it's not even touched because it's confined down this other 1,000 feet. But let's forget about that because there's no proof. The Water Commission is all wrapped up in all this wonderfully perfect, by the book, imaginary way. We can't have any more houses until we get this entire picture figured out. To me, is wrong. If we are less than 50% drawdown of, I don't know how many, what the gallonage is, and I won't ask Charlie to say, but I don't know, 78 million or 100 gallons. If we've got all these millions and millions of gallons, tens of millions, well below the 100% of this one aquifer alone, why is it that we cannot have another 1,000 homes in the one section of the Kona CDP, which is the best section, the best TND, TOD, TOA, mostly barren lava as opposed to waterways, payout and so forth, mostly barren with non-critical habitat. Why can't we have these houses here with the modern proper sanitation that will satisfy everybody? Why is all these houses that based on the old theory of only one aquifer, why can't we build another half to get up to 90% of that sustainable yield? While Seaworm, this commission, does all this wonderful analysis for whether or not we can go beyond 90%. And whether or not there really is a drop of water 1,000 feet further down that would allow us to go 10 times more. This is the city, future city of North Kona. Whatever name is to be given is right here, the best land possible, not Honolulu, not Keoho, not further south, not further north. Right here is where all our future housing, greenways, beltways, mass transit should be built in this 2 miles from Kailua area to out to where we sit and just beyond. And we're hung up on this fantasy analysis, which I contend is not necessary. And I would urge this body, this action committee, to go back to the mayor, the council, and Seaworm with comments that are a little bit more polite than what I'm saying, but essentially hit the same thing. Is this really necessary to draw this line so far down below that people cannot have houses, cannot have children, cannot raise families in this area where they can afford to commute and have jobs? Because Seaworm has to figure out if it's okay to go beyond 38 or 40% of the sustainable yield. To me, it's crazy. And I ask you to look essentially at the facts behind the contentions that I just made. Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. Sue?
Charlie, I wanted to find out, were you invited to the meeting because of the Kai case? Was that brought up? And what's the status of the Oto?
It's on hold, but Kale, you know, the Seaworm's not, they're not saying development is stopping, but they would love to have more information in order to make the adaptive management more meaningful. And that includes understanding what the deep confined water, how much is it available? What impacts would there be if we drew water out from it, and even the volume of it? That's all to be determined. So I don't, there's a big concern about having more development here, and I get that, but that's not what's being complicated.
Was it
Contemplated. Well, the Kai case is really a qualifier, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I got into it in the beginning, was because we need to understand what was happening at the shoreline, and this is what Seaworm is exactly doing. Now, they did also concede that they have to be knowledgeable about Mauka all the way to Makai, and that's out of their jurisdiction. You know, they gotta work with landowners, conservation, other parts of the DLNR. They talked about reforestry, all these things.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we put together a workshop or a discussion meeting. Because I wanted to be invited to that meeting, but it was closed. But there are a lot of people, and we talked with Chamber of Commerce and with realtors, Westway Association realtors, about the Keoho Aquifer. That is, water is the most important thing, and it should be more of a Kona Community Planning Committee action meeting. And if we could plan something for February, you know, as soon as we can, that would be great. We could do a Zoom meeting.
Kayla, your suggestions are well founded. The committee voted to have, studies done, ask for studies to be done so that we could update the community development plan. And some of those studies would include a new water resource development study, which hasn't been updated in 25 years from what I can find. But I don't believe that the current condition of the aquifer should suspend development of housing in the central Kona
Can
area.
you speak a little bit louder?
I don't believe that the current aquifer situation should suspend development of housing in the central Kona area. We badly need more housing. And the aquifer isn't being taxed to a great extent at this point. So I'm curious, what kind of a motion would you be looking for?
I haven't thought that out, and I can follow that up later, but I did not ask, I don't mind thinking. I think my comments were mostly prompted to spark thinking among the members themselves about, hey, wait a minute, what have we been told? What's the fun of it? Is there something wrong with proceeding, on the existing KO reserves, estimates? And how to go about that? I think it would end up being a pitch to, comment. This body responds to the county administration, and it would be a request for the county mayor probably to say some certain things to CWER, the mayor or his representatives, about this. But in order to frame it, intelligently, cogently, it would have to be more, better framed than what I just kind of blabbered out a whole bunch of stuff. That takes some work. My main thought here was questioning, just taking on assumption that CWER says, for all the reasons I understand that Charlie spoke well, why it's gonna take years to get this big picture for the long term. No doubt about it, based on the process and the right ways to go through that. I'm just saying, we don't have to wait for that in order to go a little further in the sustainable yield and keep our housing bucket going. And the problems we have with homelessness, people in marginal levels leaving the state. Thank you.
I'd like to, can I?
Janice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
first of all, I thank you, Keila. I have a couple of comments. First, I don't really see development stopping here. And certainly I don't think it's stopping because of water. We have a lot of other issues, other infrastructure that is far lagging, and wastewater treatment is still lingering illegally, and I just see a lot of houses going up everywhere on roads that can't handle them. I see the water going into the wastewater going into the ocean that can't be handled properly. And the water, I'm as much as I really respect Keela's real estate background and political background, and now in planning, I feel like the science of water is critical, and that some things do take time. And meanwhile, buildings are being built here left, right, and center, and the traffic is increasing insanely. And things are just, the planning just isn't working at all for the people who live here. And I think focusing on water as a finite critical resource is completely appropriate. And I think the scientists should, and the cultural practitioners should be the ones who, and people who have history, should be the ones who have time and come up with solutions and ideas and measurements that makes that, well, they might not make sense to us humans, but are real and come from a basis of knowledge and time. So I appreciate the work that CWERM's doing. I appreciate Charlie going there. I appreciate the cultural practitioners, taking part, and also the scientists, because that's what we have to base our growth and development on, is the science.
Thanks, Janice. Yes.
I just want to point out that we are not developing anywhere near as many houses as we need, according to population indications. And Stanford Carr had a development plan to build 1,100 homes. Cited the reason that he's not building those 1,100 homes is a lack of water resources. So you're in error on those things, Janice. We need more housing. The reason, if you don't have more housing, what happens? You create a shortage of supply. A shortage of supply drives prices up, drives rents up, and what you're doing is you're driving young people out of this community because they can't afford to live here. You need to find a way to develop more housing.
Okay, we're moving a little bit away from the agenda item discussion. Charlie, did you have anything else you want to add or anything? Want to move forward?
And that's right in the thrust of this discussion, so important.
And
Um,
this is why I think we need to collaborate with the county on that.
Yeah.
Because CWOM's not gonna look at that, that's not their Kuleana. So the
So-
development in between is where
Yeah.
some of the decisions need to be made.
So if you see a place where you think that we can provide some impact moving forward, or is that something you'd want to bring and then we try to figure out whether it be like,
Well, I think
testimony or-
invited the planning director, I think, to the meeting, and we should add a little more emphasis to that because, you know, I think it'll go a long way to help us understand, you know, what exactly the county's attempting to do. I don't believe they're gonna ignore the traffic. I don't believe they're gonna ignore the affordable housing. I don't believe they're gonna ignore the pollution, but I don't know how they, you know, plan to put all of that together in a plan, or even if they have. But it's a concern to the community, which was brought up in the adaptive management plan, so I think that's where we should engage is with the planning and
I make one quick add-on.
very quick?
Yes, possibly ask the, the mayor, and or the manager of the head of the water department, Manager Keith Okamoto, to explore the possibility or how they can ask CWERN for their approval to draw down additional percentage of the known KOO aquifer capacity to facilitate housing to keep going during the next few years while the overall comprehensive study is done. Just ask, because water department will know, is it even possible to do what I've suggested? If just focus on that KO aquifer and for the water manager to say, can we please get your approval to allow another 25%, leaving us at 80% or 70%, etc. Is that even possible? Water manager Keith Okamoto would know. And if he does know, and if he thinks it's possible, if the mayor's supportive, that would be one way to go in the interim, while respecting the absolutely correct long-term approach that the Water Commission has proposed, long-term. Meanwhile, people are dying, kind of like the flying homes of wait list.
I should add on that the water department was there, Representative Keith was there, Camilo was there. And they're working on a water use development plan for the KO aquifer, which they do not have. And because the county doesn't have a water use development plan, CWERM is looking at this one by one, justification for a single one.
If that's the focal point, then that's what this actually.
Well, for the county, for the county,
If that's
they're
our
working on
door, then we gotta get that door
yeah,
back.
and Keith's well aware of that. They're working on it, you know, and again, they're collaborating at least with CWORM too, and or CWORM's collaborating with them. But that's part of the process where one of the elements are missing. The one is done.
Remember when Kaloko sought to confine or get
Designation.
permission to protect the waters for Kaloko Park? Very appropriate, but that brought such a ruckus.
Yeah.
And it showed what greed is out there. Okay, maybe God is answering this whole scenario by conditions, and I will testify later, but it has to do with very true facts that have happened here.
Can I say one more little thing, John?
Well, I'll let everyone else say one more little thing, so yeah, go for it, Janice.
Thanks, John. You're such a democratic guy. So, and I meant in democracy. I wanted to respond to the comments about my comments being incorrect. There are a lot of places being built here. Stanford Car, there are a lot of places being built, but they're mostly for people who have a lot of money. So we are seeing a lot of development that's for people who have a lot of money, a lot of second, third homes now for vacation rentals. And if Stanford Car's development had gone forward, I mean, I think that the issue of water does give a reason why people who are voting, the planning commission or the county council, to say no to a giant development that is otherwise not supported either. So while the water is a nebulous issue, there's also the issues of infrastructure, other infrastructure that's critical. And if 1,100 homes had been built up there, no one could have gotten to work. So, and also I think it's up to this committee to really stick to the principles of concurrency and push that forward in all infrastructure. And I think that if we don't do that, we are lagging. I mean, to say, okay, we've got all the water, now we can build thousands more homes is just not compliant with the tenets of the CDP, which require or definitely incorporate the need for other infrastructure. So it's a package. And of course, water is the most important, but it's a package. So thank you.
Thanks, James. Anything else you wanted to add, Charlie, or?
No.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, thanks for continuing to work on this and all your work. Okay, if that's it, we'll move on to agenda item 4, Hawaii County Council Bill 63 relating to dwellings. AC members will discuss any amendments to Bill 63 proposed during the January 7th, 2026 meeting of the Hawaii County Council. AC members will decide whether to submit further testimony on this legislation. Is there any testimony on this agenda item? Seeing none. Want me to take the lead on this one? So Nancy attended the meeting. I was working during the time, but I watched it later. So a lot happened during the meeting, and then the end was nothing happened. They proposed that there was an amendment provided by Councilmember Onishi so just to refresh everyone's memory, Bill 63, this is to allow housing in mixed use commercial industrial zones. So we're looking at like the Costco area down by Target. Kona has a lot of industrial mixed MCX zoning. And so that's why we thought it was important to testify. The original bill just allowed housing, single, double, and multifamily housing in this zoning, and that's all the bill said. So we said in admitted testimony, our testimony has generated a lot of discussion at the meetings that they've actually discussed this bill. And at this current meeting, it generated discussion again. The amendment proposed by Councilmember Onishi, which was brought forward, I believe, by Director Darrow, they worked together on it, was to, instead of just allowing housing in MCX, it was to tie housing as an accessory to the other uses inside of MCX, so that you couldn't just build standalone housing. It would be housing tied specifically to a commercial or industrial property for the workforce working at that property. There's a lot of discussion ranging from, we don't know if this fixes the issue, to we want to hear what the CDP Action Committee has to say. In the end, they called for the vote and voted it down. Onishi was the only one that voted for it, so it was shot down. So there's a lot of discussion, and in the end, that didn't change.
The amendment was voted, the amendment
was voted
to
down.
tie it to it as an accessory
that was it.
use was voted no 8-1. And so then we're back to the square one with the original bill that we already submitted comments on.
Original bill that only has, it's on draft 2 because it has the setback for anything in next to heavy industrial. So there was a setback that was proposed by civil defense. But we're back to basically the same bill.
So they deferred it until the 4th of
February.
February, and I think that's because it was gonna be in Hilo again, and when the director seems to be a lot of the energy behind this. Onishi introduced it to the council, but the director seems to be the one kind of bringing in, ideas in terms of amendments, is the impression I got by listening to the discussion. So they deferred it. So nothing's gonna happen until, and we don't know if they're gonna come up with more amendments or just call for the vote or what's gonna happen. So that's
Two things, the code has an RCX zone, which allows residential, commercial mixed use. I think it's a little more plausible to have housing with stores than it is to have housing with industrial uses. The other thing is the reason that they may be pushing that change to MCX is the new proposed hospital is zoned MCX. And Queens wanted to include housing in their area, and they didn't want to go through a zoning change. There's no reason they can't go through a zoning change.
Well, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
I was mentioned just one of the council members, why don't they just go in for a general commercial rezoning for that parcel if that's what this is all about?
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, so, Kimball, council member Kimball said she didn't really like this bill. She thought it was too general. She just across the board say the dwellings are allowed in MCX. She thought that if it really had to do with the specific applicant, that there should be a way of site-specific request, like the hospital, for example. And that's kind of, before they adjourned, that seemed to be the way the discussion was leaning. And and I think like that idea, like why does the hospital come in for general commercial zoning where dwellings are already allowed? And so that's about as far as they got.
Or the hospital could become a PUD. There's lots of ways to get past what it's zoned right now.
But she raised the issue of coming up with some site-specific alternative.
Yeah. Gil?
Couple things. One, a PUD can't introduce new uses. It can only affect other aspects, but you can't add density, increase overall density or new uses. My thought is this action committee might consider, given the impasse, to either comment further that if no appropriate changes are being considered, that a zone change on a site-by-site basis. Number one, the zone change is the wisest and best protection for the community, is including the landowners surrounding industrial, the whole thing. Number two, there could be a minor change to the zoning code that would allow this addition of residential to be in MCX or other zoning districts by use permit. If added to the use, just like for now, for example, daycare centers can be permitted in residential RS zoning by getting a use permit, same with churches, for example. It's possible as a compromise to go the use permit route. It requires a change to the code. And then short of that, the applicant, whether it's Queens Hospital or anyone else, simply comes in, relatively speaking, with a one hearing shot or a no planning commission only, no council. One hearing, if not contested case, right, or some information referral to get it approved, that for that specific site, given the background report of what's around it, what's going on, what conditions can be placed on it, and they can place any conditions in the use permit, rather than a blanket zoning change that says, okay, it's a permitted use. We lost control, right? Use permit would be my suggestion, given the council's preference to want to push this thing through. It sounds like they're inclined to get it through the door as soon as they can. To ask that they instead change it to allow it as a use permit in that zone.
I believe that's Heather, that was what Heather suggested. She didn't bring the amendment because she didn't have it in time, but I think that's what she was suggesting she's gonna bring to the February 4th meeting, was a use permit instead.
Your body's weight added to that might be helpful with some reasons attached, such as streamlining some of the elaboration that I mentioned of all the conditions, background report to analyze site by site for applicants. So you retain control without unnecessary complexity of a zoning change for each one.
The feeling that we've been sitting through all of these meetings so far, and the council doesn't seem very excited about this legislation. So I'm not necessarily, I think they're gonna be, working on imagining some alternatives such as that, or the use permit concept. But I think as it stands right now, the vibe is that they're not very receptive to
But that won't solve Queens' problem. Queens wants to have some housing on that site for the new hospital.
But that's
Or-
not what this legislation is about, and that's not up to us to solve their problem. This legislation is just, and that's what we're talking about right now. This legislation is to put dwellings in allowable use in MCX. If they want to work with the council to deal with their specific issue, they need to do that, but that's not the legislation that's before us.
Yeah, I suspect the legislation was prompted by that.
But they haven't quite admitted that.
It would be normal for them to admit, or not them, but for the applicant to admit they're different.
It wasn't clear in the beginning, but as the more time goes by and more conversation occurs, it's becoming that I'm getting the feeling more that that's really what it does have to do with. It wasn't clear initially, but they were trying to say, oh, this supports the Kona CDP's concept of increasing mixed use. That was the original spin, but you know.
Use permit would solve.
But anyway,
Yeah, so it's still at first reading. It's still at the same draft. It will be continue for first reading and any proposed amendments on February 4th. You know, we're thinking, I was wondering if we should provide more testimony or not, but nothing has been actually proposed different on this bill. And if they do propose something different, and if it does pass first reading, which I think is a big if right now, we will have time at our next meeting to respond to any amendments and provide testimony. So I think my suggestion for now would be to hold off on anything additional, because like we have what Heather suggested, but I don't know if that's actually gonna be proposed or if the planning director is gonna come forward with some change in Onishi. So that was kind of my thought, was to,
yeah, we put this on the agenda thinking that we were gonna be voting and addressing new amendments, but they killed the amendment, so it's still sitting in the initial spot that it was back in October when we wrote our first testimony. So I agree with John. I think we should just wait it out and see what they come up with at the next
because
meeting.
we will have an opportunity to respond if it does actually pass first reading.
And Council Member Villegas said at the meeting that she thought that if they were gonna vote on any amendments, the committee should have the opportunity to provide comments, which was good.
Yeah, there were a couple people there who, I think Kagiwara also, a couple of the members suggested that before they even voted on that last amendment that they wanted to hear from us. So I hope the same vibe will be going on at the next meeting. Yeah.
Just want to comment that I think waiting for second reading to make a complete change of going from a zoning code change of permitted uses, instead going to use permit is a major change to happen between first and second reading. It's a different bill, essentially, and I would think that it would be wiser to recommend that it go back to committee rather than go through reading.
That actually came up, I think Kaleka or somebody,
Yeah.
Councilman Inaba said maybe we should send this back to committee, so,
Yes.
but they didn't do it.
No, but an action committee saying that it still does not, reiterating and recommend go back to committee to allow reasonable time for further considerations, including the possibility of a use permit route, something like that. I think would make, not just don't do anything, but consider this other possibilities such as, and go back to committee to do that. Rather than have to fight a fight in the second reading. The momentum is almost, so easy to just finish it up with a few tweaks in a second reading. You get it off the table and move on, and the council members can do something else, right? We're asking them to go back to, and if they don't go back to committee, fine. I mean, that's the way life is, but I think it'd be a more prudent request if the committee, this committee, is concerned about it passing it. Thanks.
Janice.
Sorry.
Janice?
I just wanted, so this seems like a really good opportunity to be mentioning TODs. I mean, I think so. I don't know if the hospital, if it's, I mean, we just we need to focus on TODs as mixed use and not just, I mean, just feels like more hodgepodge stuff to me. I mean, I get with the hospital thing, although I'm not completely super familiar with all the aspects of it, but it seems like this is something that's awaiting us to figure out where our TODs are going to be. And if it is because it's, because of hospitals, possibly being built or something else that could bring employment and mixed use, then great. But just, I mean, just trying to figure out how to support this one thing ourselves. I think maybe Nancy said, it doesn't seem like our Kuleana, thanks.
Thanks, Janice.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I've heard back from some landowners who think, who are actually sincerely, I think, trying to combine the rezoning piece with the mixed use and residential. That it may help address the traffic issue, because many people are coming into work to work in Kailua, but they're living outside. And I can attest to that if you just look at the morning traffic going past my house. Now, I don't know how you make people live in a place that they may not want to live, but that's one of the, that's one of the considerations. I think, I don't know if that's being factored into the discussion. Whether there's even, an attempt to see if that would help ease up the traffic, because, and maybe Onishi was trying to suggest that, in that it's workforce development tied into the development, so that there wouldn't be all this external traffic. But traffic, I mean, the infrastructure there is, we all know, it's sorely lacking, so that's just a consideration.
Yeah, and that is something they've been talking about, is
Yeah.
it's a way for people to live where they work, and they have mentioned at times they won't need a car.
Yeah.
I think that our testimony, and that's kind of, that's a thing about the CDP that we do support.
Yeah.
But I think the CDP pushes, it's not just about allowing housing, it's about, adopting these village guidelines that we think people will actually be able to live, work, play without a car.
Yeah.
And this bill doesn't do that. It just kind of allows housing and says it'll figure itself out. Yeah.
Well, the other part is that they've been really pushing consistently that this would be workforce housing, and the purpose of it is for workforce housing for that specific district. But there's nothing in the legal language of the bill to make it workforce housing. It's just dwelling. So there's nothing that, it's just based on chapter 11. And as the study on chapter 11 went, there are a lot of ways of fulfilling a chapter 11 requirement that doesn't require even building any affordable housing. So the thing is really flawed to me if the whole thing is workforce housing. What is the average wage of somebody living in working in MCX district? Are they going to be able to even afford those houses? This thing is really flawed unless they address that issue, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about Kamakana Villages, which got its zoning in the form of a zoning exemption, 2009. To build, I forget what it is, 3,000 or 6,000 housing units. This would be the area that was mentioned that the current owner has proposed but can't build 1,100 because of water. If you would change this MCX zoning, they still need water commitments from the KLO aquifer. So let's forget about that aspect, and we already have zoning. Everything from the high school to Kalani Road is short of a small strip for QLT's ownership. Right at the edge of town, it is already zoned and waiting.
It's supposed to be affordable housing for the most part.
Exactly, 60%. And so we don't need to sell out confusion in the middle of our urban core in order to cut down traffic, and we can build transit-oriented centers for this half a mile or less distance from the city core. It's all perfect. So Shibai, as far as that rationale.
Yes. The other thing about the chapter 11 is that only the affordable component can be within 15 miles of the rezoning. I support John's advice. I think we should wait this one out and see what they come up with and not send any more testimony at this point. Because there's a lot of confusion in the discussion, and I just wait to see what they cough up and then respond to that, because they're still haven't voted on anything for all practical purposes.
I'm inclined to have a motion to ask them to send it back to committee and bring it back to the CDP for discussion.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'd support that idea of telling them they should send it back to committee after listening to the discussion for we've sat through probably 6 hours of meetings while this has been dragging on. So I don't know. I guess I think that's probably a good idea.
Do you want a second?
Yeah, I'll second
Okay.
that. I'll second the idea that this committee send a letter to, I guess, the chairman, that he sent it back to the council committee on planning to come up, because that'd be the appropriate place to come up with this, since the language has been so diverse, like
Yeah.
Kayla said, bearing very little resemblance to the initial legislation. So,
And
I think that's probably a
our
good
committee in
idea.
that process.
Yeah, so we have a motion from RJ, seconded by Nancy, to send a letter to the council member or Chair Inaba, asking to send this bill back to committee, and request a discussion with this committee. on
And
it.
provide the Kona CDP Action Committee an opportunity to comment on it when it's a committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Refer
That's a good
Refer it
idea.
back to committee. Thank you.
Yes,
Well, any discussion on that?
good, I
Charlie,
think it's a good
Charlotte?
idea.
Do you also include the possibility of the use permit in this, at this point, or do you?
Well, if I were the author, I would allude to that as a possible consideration without taking a position on it, respecting that there might be options such as. That would be my personal preference, but I respect the committee may see things otherwise.
I'm more inclined to just do.
Leave it at that.
Yeah.
I kind of think that if they bring it back to committee and they discuss it with us, that's where we bring up options.
Yeah,
No, I think it's a good idea.
yeah, I think so too. Any other discussion on it? If not, take a vote. So the vote on the motion to write a letter to Chair Inaba, asking that Bill 63 be referred back to committee, to give the Kona CDPAC an opportunity to discuss it more. Please
Which
vote.
would include the opportunity, but
Yeah.
not solely for that.
Yeah, sorry, which would include the opportunity for the CDP to comment on it more, CDP Action Committee. All right, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Cool. Yeah, planning, if you want to give me that letter, or I guess do you guys want to write the letter and then I sign it and send it to Chair Inaba? That'd be the way to go. Okay,
I have a motion, so we could put it on a letter.
perfect. Awesome.
A good discussion. Thanks, everybody, for your input. This has been sort of an interesting. It's been kind of disappointing. I mean, Kayla was on the county council and so was Zion. It's been interesting to see, like, during this particular process, how little public input they've gotten. So they're sitting there trying to make a decision on this and getting a lot of pressure from, even the director. And then Bill Moore showed up and Riley Smith showed up, and but we have actually been the sole representatives of the community on this issue, giving input. And I didn't realize, how significant that was until the last meeting when our comments were referred to a number of times. And so it shows an important role we can play, at least giving some extra feedback for those folks to consider, and responsible feedback, not emotional feedback, but objective feedback. And they pointed out, like, one of our comments was we were afraid that multifamily use in that district might allow for vacation rentals. Well, the director pointed out that in the MCX, short-term vacation rentals aren't allowable use, and so he was right. So our comment was unfounded in that respect, but the rest of our comments were, objective, and the council needed to hear from somebody. So we provided a good service.
Cool. Yeah, and so we'll send that letter in and we'll see what happens on February 4th is the next meeting. So we will have time to follow up. Like I said, even if they ignore our letter and then they vote and pass it on first reading, we'll still have an opportunity to testify for second reading. So We'll see. Hopefully they do send it back to the committee though. I think that would be a good place
That'd
to
be
go.
the best
figure it
thing to
out.
do.
And like Nancy said, someone already brought it up. It was already mentioned, so I think that letter will go. We're good. Cool. All right, I think we can move on to agenda item 5, Elite Highway. AC members will discuss engaging with the community and envisioning opportunities for development of the Elite Highway corridor. I know that Lamaku, I have your letter here if you'd like to testify. And also noting that we have some written testimony from Lamaku. Right now we just have the one copy, so was asked to pass it around for people to read. And
Copied and then.
yeah, and I think
Now, I'd like to have them have what the legislature got from the.
is that this one?
Last.
This one here. Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping Shane was gonna be here because he was involved in the committee process on this previously, so we'll just have to update him.
I can provide you with some background.
Okay.
I was in the same meeting.
Yeah.
But Shane should be. Giving me up.
I hope he
Because he
wants to
chaired it.
continue participating and
Yeah.
So what is exactly being brought forward? What is the agenda item?
Yeah, the agenda item is specifically, we're kind of, so this, the Elite Highway had a lot of discussion and I was living here at the time, but I wasn't, involved. So there's a lot of people that haven't been involved or been out for a while. And we were mostly interested in just hearing from the community, kind of starting that discussion back up again. It's like Nancy said, it kind of it hasn't happened in a while. And so that's all we were discussing today. We're not discussing to vote on improving the highway.
What is there in that spot? What is there on the plan for that space that was supposed to be the parkway? What is there? What is?
there's
planned?
nothing now, but the county owns the right of way. And it came up a lot in the discussion for the Kona Open Space Network Plan. And so people were sort of like, what's going on with this? What do people feel now? What's possible? What would people accept? And so, and RJ brought it up, is what,
Well,
and so we just wanted to put it on the agenda to sort of think about maybe re-energizing the discussion in the community and just see where we are all these years later,
Well,
part of the issue is the community development plan has some concurrency requirements. And one of them is that parkway be built before any zoning changes occur in that area. And it was well thought out, we need more traffic arteries. But we don't have this traffic artery because there's graves in the way. My idea was, are there alternatives? Is there a way to go around the area that's a problem?
Information for you, which is far more than just about this.
Well, let's try to keep it targeted on the highway if we can.
I assure you, it will be on that and more. So I want you to really tune in and listen, because I have given this testimony for years. Since 2014, Janice can testify. I am Lily Noy here, thank you for being here. I testified at a meeting, and Charles, you were there, this was a community development meeting on Zoom. I testified for the first time to the community about what ACUA was giving it as information. And I will say that in 2014, the National Park of Koloko'anukohau desired a blessing of ACUA upon all involved in a land clearing episode there, to be honored for seeking his goodness and blessing. This instance was chosen by God to be the focal point for the great light dawning in Hawaii for the planet. Here is Keaulama, the era of light. In the era of light, God promises to heal the planet and all life upon the planet. By learning the cosmology of the first faith of Hawaii, divine creator intends to heal the planet and all life upon the planet. At Kaloko begins the new greatest story ever told. Did any of you see the movie with Charlton Heston, The Greatest Story Ever Told? What is that story about? Anyone, can you help me? The greatest story.
just proceed with your testimony.
No, I'm asking the question. Who can answer that? What's the greatest story ever told? And I'm giving you a hint, Charlton F. Heston. What is the story about? Anybody? Anybody? The story is about the birth of Jesus. All right, this is what God says. At Kaloko begins the new greatest story ever told, where certain lands are chosen as the capital of the kingdom of Hawaii. What does this tell us about the lands neighboring the capital? Akua, with the assistance and presence of the divine seven identities, honored as Kani, Ku, Lono, Kanaloa, Hina, Laka, and Pelehonomia, caused the progression of life by Akua in the Pacific, in the lands first known as Kalua Kalani, translated as the second heaven. You, Lamaku, o Hawaii and Kabua Pahuanahiao, are asked to teach the cosmology of the first faith of Iwi Kamakohoni. As Mauna Wakea is the utterly divine connection between life of the heavens and life created by divine creator of the heavens, it is sacred domain. So too are the lands between Kononau and Kolokon are especially, I'll give you the examples, certain lands are absolutely not to be built upon. And no further development, we may fix and maintain development there, but from Honaunau to Kalokohau, no new development. This is what I have announced to the legislature, to the governor in 2014, 2021, the letter was written. And so, and also to the county, many times since then. Between the lands between Kaloko and Kohau and Manawana are sacred and vital lands of Akua for history to Oiwi and all mankind. These lands constitute the sacred heart of what became the remnant of the great continent of Mu that flourished with great populations in time, over time, and sank over time. This history would not be known without the quality and presence of yourself, Lamaku o Hawaii and Kahu of Anguanahiyao, as one of your nation of Oiwi of Kalokalani. This history would not be known without God's gift of these words of life by way of your ancestors, who uphold the highest light of Akua at Kamakohonu. I am named Lamaku. It means standing torch. From the beginning of time, this is where life was created. In Kaluokalani, the second heaven. In these very lands between Kaloko and Honono. I have reported to the state, to the governor, that there is to be no further development. We may repair, but this is the whole purpose of the agreement of many of the people for Ali'i Parkway. It's going right through that sacred area. And so I might say that I will give you, now it is maybe more easy for you to hear this in the light of day. You see, I am known as Lamaku. Lauren Nikahala Roy is my name. But I am Her Royal Majesty. I am the daughter of Ali'i David Kili'ihele Mauna Roy Jr., who was named by God to restore the first temple, not only in Hawaii, but on earth. This was done 50 years ago. And I am also the daughter of my mother, who is the Royal Ali'i Wahine Verda Lealoha, Rita Roy. As such, I announce my name. I am their representative, you see. I am Her Royal Majesty. For this, Ahuena is the capital. It is why Kamehameha the Great deemed that place as our royal capital and unified the kingdom. Not Maui, that came later. But interesting how Mr. Kamakapili on KHON owned radio or TV allows, you see, KHON hires Kamakapili, but God doesn't name Kamakapili to represent Hawaiian people. He doesn't give the right information. The true capital and first was Kamakohonu and is Ahuenahiau. As a result, that restoration has rendered the first streaming of words from heaven to us. This is the story of a modern day Joan of Arc. That, oh no, this is me. You know, it's taken me years to be able to articulate such a sacred message, but I'm doing quite well. I hope you see this and comprehend it much more clearly today, because truly, if this day happened when my parents were alive, he and she would be the king and queen, proclaimed by God for the nation of Hawaii. That is what is happening, ladies and gentlemen. But today, I am their representative, and I stand for that spiritual naming of God for our nation at Kamakohonu, which talks about the royal lands of Kaluokalani, where you have in mind to put a highway. It is not gonna happen, because before that happens, the restoration of the kingdom will be on the agenda. I promise you that, because it's already been shared to us by God, and I will give you a second copy. You've received this already. And thanks to Miriam of the county, she has received this, has responded to acknowledge this. And it carries far more information than you can ever know. And that it should be read over and over again. We are an oral people. And ladies and gentlemen, we are brothers and sisters of spirit. How did we come into this world? With a pad and pencil? No, it was by the breath of life, so we are brothers and sisters. So I assure you that this oral history is, Charles, what we need again to understand. But our education system has taken the way of the West. The way of the West has become more, I would say, they need to see much more the natural way of our people, of our Hawaiian people. And I believe a lot of people come here for this reason, to heal. Healing is such a great matter, and I have learned that I am a healer. And so I invite you, any questions from you. But this is why there will be no parkway. By the way, Huenahiau is the first restored temple of Hawaii. And we are continuing the work to work under this, as the state is here. For example, the care of all sacred sites will have to be from God. And it will have to come from the nonprofit, Kulana Hulihonua, that is poised to serve Akua by serving the kahu of Ahuenahiau. You might be interested to know that the true kahu of Ahuenahiau, there are two, like my parents were, father and mother.
Lamaku,
The second is-
Lamaku, we have your written testimony. If you could summarize your oral testimony, we need to move on.
Known to be the creation for the world, these days are known as the creation of the kingdom of Akua, or the kingdom of God upon the earth. Akua begins this by guidance from Mauna Wakea, Akua's holy mountain and pinnacle of Kaluokalani, the second heaven. So in other words, Ahuenahiau is the representation of Mauna Wakea. What I receive is what is received at Mauna. Divine Creator calls for the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii, already begun by leader and ruler identified and chosen by Akua, Ali'i Nui Mo'i, Edmund K. Pakili Silva Jr. The governor of Hawaii and all offices of note have been informed of these movements occurring in time. The first time I gave this information to the county was by way of a CDP Zoom meeting. Charles, you were there. And it was so high that I don't blame people for not even remembering it. But here I am again, bringing it forward again and being more clear with you on what this means. this is very true. And the kingdom's capital restored for the kingdom of Hawaii is none other than, and it would never be. You see, the mana of Ahuenahiau has now expanded. It is now the entire area from Kaloko to Hononau. There will be no highway there. It is not, it is the sacred land for the world, not only Hawaii. No, nothing more. We can take care of what we have there, but as far as building goes, nothing more there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamaku. Is there any other testimony on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up for discussion. Don't know.
I don't have anything to add. I was hoping Shane would be here and get his input from his participation on this committee on that issue previously, but at this point, I don't have anything.
It does, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanna say that, when Shane engaged in that, it was only to talk to the descendants along the right of way. To engage them to see whether, I'm not gonna call it the bikeway, the right of way.
Mhm.
Would be acceptable for them, assuming that it's not crossing over any barriers or one. Or any significant sites whatsoever, and that may not be the alignment that's there now, even, it could be something different. And that was really the just test the waters, you know, to see, we don't wanna go through the same thing we went through when I was on the burial council, you know, just years and years and years of back and forth. And rightfully so, but there were good discussions on the burial council. But we felt that's when we should, let's just see, how they felt. And most, without having any other information, most said, look, we're receptive to receiving more information, but there was no plan.
Yeah, what it seemed like for the minutes that were in my computers, it kind of stopped there. And
Right.
Curtis Tyler was one of the participants
That's
as
right.
well. And he was spoken to me a couple of times recently about wanting to be involved in
Yeah.
new discussions, so.
Yeah, and what was driving that was that in the county CIP, capital improvement plan, there was set aside some monies to do that review. So we were responding, the committee was responding to this opportunity, you know, because money had already been assigned. I don't think we spent any of it though, like, because we met all voluntarily. And so we brought in, you know, a lot of them at the time, at least the people that we had contacts with. But there was no, we didn't proceed beyond the discussion point. So there's no plan, I think, for the bikeway or for the right of way. But some of the suggestions were, can it be used as a pathway, you know, for pedestrian use? Can it be used for bike? That, you know, anything that might relieve the conditions now, they may not be cars, but they may be pedestrians. And that's as far as we got.
So no, alternative routes were ever explored.
No. No. We specifically looked at the right of way that's already been approved. And the fact that there was some money to spend for it.
My recollection of that very evening was that all of the descendants that were there gathered were there to tell Shane, as he was a representative, of absolutely the steadfast defense of our ancestors, that there would be no, and you know, not only that, the head forces of all of the universities were against this. It was so blatantly wrong. And let me say, you must read the book Heiau of the Island of Hawaii by Stokes and Dye. You must pick that up and go to the page that shows you this Kona coast. Here we have an unprecedented and unequal representation of number of ahupua'as. There's a reason for that. And ahupua'a, The more the Ahupua'a tells you, the higher the population, and the population there was great. Before we had canoes going back and forth over the Pacific, we had the continent of Mu, you see. We went back and forth without water, long before the seas became. This is what I mean when you folks have to look at be told those things, and you need to open, expand your heart and your mind. I told Shane that night, everyone showing up at that meeting was to be as clear as ever against this idea, because we've been through it. And many people had put in their own money to participate. And I'm talking about the people of the University of Hawaii, colleagues, people that love Kona and love our nonprofits that represent our people. So that's the action that's behind this. And let me say, there's always, we understand what the people want and need. And there were ideas tossed around about planning. But the state and the powers of the people that are in planning are taken with themselves too much. They don't listen. They don't listen. But if they were taken back to the very days of the overthrow, they would. Because what you're gonna have here is a revisiting of history. We're going back to the kingdom of Hawaii, ladies and gentlemen. And these are the beginning days of how and why. It is pure spirit and it's for the benefit of the earth. I'm not kidding you. And when it comes to the parkway, that's the story for that. It is not gonna be happening. You will have greater opposition than you ever thought possible.
Charlie, these meetings, sorry, these aren't the same committee that Shane was on, yeah, the meetings you were.
Initially it was.
Oh, initially it
yeah.
was, okay.
Yeah, I co-chaired it with them, and I can recall only 3 or 4 probably.
Okay,
Just
okay.
very initial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear. I didn't know about, how involved Shane was before. Really interested to hear what you
Speaking.
Yeah.
He's one of the descendants, and so he was called upon to represent heavily, and he did. And he was reminded of that. So he wasn't allowed to be stepping over to any areas of interest.
Mhm.
That's how strong the people are. You haven't seen anything yet.
So when we get a chance to talk to Shane, to see how he feels about whether he wants to re-engage any conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
And you take no interest in what I have given you today. You see, you have no respect for what I have shared with you. For the record, I am acknowledging that none of these people here I sit before, and I read my testimony to, even take the respect to say pela paha, as a Hawaiian would say. Perhaps it is so. None of you.
Lamaku, we've given you a lot of time. I feel like we've respected your time.
I'm asking you.
I understand, but
that question. How do you feel? Do you respect what I say?
I do respect what you say, and I've heard you speak this at these committees before.
Thank you. So could you echo that?
Sorry?
You can echo that. You can say what she says is true.
What we're talking today is nothing about approving the Ali'i Parkway. We're just trying to talk to people again. And you're one of these people, and I appreciate you being here today. Well, we're not even proposing that it does happen. We're just talking about having discussions with people about what's going on here. So,
but that's just your opinion.
I'm representing Most High God, so you better believe I'm gonna be clear on what I'm saying. Nancy, if you don't respect Most High God, you will not be going far.
But we need to hear from a diversity of people.
Well, guess what? You're gonna be hearing from that when we return to our kingdom. You better be ready, because that's what is in store here. By what I have given you, and by the way, it has been in the light of day since the day God has brought it forward. And all of you have had ample time. But your minds, when your eyes are closed by the dollar signs, you forfeit any respect you have for this land. Let me tell you, it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to any of man. God says in the great book for the Christians, God says the land is a Akuz. The land is a Akuz and the fullness thereof, not man. And I represent a very real temple, the only one who is restored. I communicate with Most High God. I communicate with our ancestors. I am in communion with the last Konohiki of Kamakohon, who is Ali'i Naluahine Kaupua, my kuku. I sat on his lap when I was 1 year old. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth. You can't know about this. No one can on earth but me. And I'm telling you, this is very seriously about planning and government. I told the mayor in his office when they had the discussion about the coat of arms being used. They talked about it being used, and after all, they said it's just an ornamental piece. And I said, the opposite is so true. You may not use it unless you are in support of the kingdom. And you know what? They decide to keep it. I think they're gonna be in support of the kingdom to come. Because they elect to use the coat of arms, which is the great king, the great Ali'i, Kame'iamoku and Kamanawa, the twins, Namahoe, of which my mother is in her lineage from.
Thank you, Lamaku. So it sounds like we want to defer this discussion maybe until Shane comes. That seemed,
I would ask Shane first.
yeah.
Yeah, rather than just put it on the.
Yeah.
Just put it on the
Put it on
agenda.
the next one. Okay, so we'll defer this to the next meeting.
Well, how we talked about Shane as being one individual that makes all the big differences here. I just wanna know.
I think what we're trying to establish, because everybody here is a new member. Just what that background was, so that they're fully apprised. I don't think it's fair to, bring in greed and money. We're all volunteers. We're doing this for maybe not an identical reason. Because we're not all of the, historic, we don't share, some of us don't share this same issue. And, but I think there's a genuine sense of care, for the land here and for its people. But we're not living in the same structure that we were, and that's one of my big laments, you talk about the.
Well, now you are, because from what I'm reading to you,
What
is a game changer.
and
You need
I
to
get
get with that consciousness here. This is new, this is true. This is true, and so you have to accept that. Ladies and gentlemen of this body, you have to respect that. This is truth. It's as if you were talking to the Pope, and by the way, I'd like to have people say, what does Lamaku mean? I say, do you know how the Pope is called the Pope? He's not given his first name. And they said, that's right. Well, in the courts, I am known as Lamaku already. I am here. I am the first of the modern era. There will be more to come in the ages to come. But this is the age of light. Akua says he's promises to heal the planet and all life upon the planet. And these lands are important for Akua. It's the least we can do is to listen to this and to enforce God. So it's as if you have the Pope in front of you. Would you cast any kind of disrespect or that you would not be respectful of what he's saying? Because this is what I'm asking of you quite plainly to do. Some of you know me from the past, but others of you have not met me before. And I will tell you that this is the biggest news on the planet, the new greatest story ever told. This is true. And we can thank the staff at Kaloko Park because they were being honest and careful for their land keeping, very respected. They wanted to have a prayer. And when that happened, when I went to prayer, a very great vision came. And that's what began what brought more.
Janice, do you have something to add?
I want to thank Lamaku for your testimony and your heartfelt care for the home, the place that I call home now. I want to say that it concerns me a little bit. I know, Lamaku, that you would like the public, people like me, to be able to take part in these meetings, and I'm just concerned that if I think I feel very much that people have really heard what you're saying and feel, very lucky to hear all that great information. And at the same time, there's things going on here that if the people on this committee and the public can't, move on to discuss those very incredibly important issues, that, maybe even worse things will happen. So I don't know. I don't want the committee to limit speech. I've been very strong proponent of everybody being able to say what they need to say. And yet I know that, we're respectful of everybody's time. We have 2 hours to discuss these things. So I hope people don't think I'm out of line. It's really in the spirit of democracy and process that we all share. So Lamaku, again, thank you. I just, I just want us all to be mindful that, we all have a part in this, and we should, so.
Thank you, Jeff. So let me bring up to all of you that Kamehameha Schools is meeting from one end of the archipelago to the other. It is a good time for community meetings. They are meeting with all of the people in all communities, and they will be meeting in time to come. So at the same time, let us have meetings with the restored kingdom of Hawaii by Ali'inuimu'i Edmekili Ipaki Silva Jr. Let us bring this forward. I bring this forward to this agenda today. It has relevance to your number 5 agenda matter, Ali Parkway. So.
Okay, well, I'm gonna close the agenda item 5, and because
Yes.
we kind of discussed it as much as we can, and I think we want to wait until.
I'm giving you the venue and the way to have discussions. Open it up. Let's go with Kamehameha Schools. Let us go to the kingdom and let us have these discussions, because this is coming forward. It is here and now.
Okay, I'm gonna move to close this agenda item. We'll refer it or defer it to the next meeting when we have our other AC members on board.
I will be
So we're
here.
gonna move to agenda item 6. 2026 meeting schedule poll. Planning staff will provide an update on the meeting schedule poll distributed to AC members on December 17th, 2025. Is there any testimony on this item?
Did you guys have an update as far as how the poll ended up?
Just I think we kind of discussed it at the chair meeting, but thank you for everyone who filled it out. We received the responses. The preferred time for most members is 12 to 2 p.m. But like in our last meeting, you guys mentioned that based on the agenda, we could potentially hold the meeting in the community somewhere at a different time, but that's really agenda dependent. So we can talk about that and try to plan in advance for that. But I think it's hard to kind of determine for the whole year. So whoever responded, it was mainly for January and February. And it looks like most people are available between 12 and 2.
Yeah, I think the idea, or at least I only filled it out for January and February just because the time I set then is gonna be okay for the rest of the year. Yeah, besides, the community meetings that we have. Yeah. So for now, we're just holding it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have spaces here reserved. If something changes and you guys wanna reschedule your meetings, you can do that. We always have this space at 12 to 2.
Okay.
As well as building G. We just don't have that venue available throughout the year. It's been both, so, yeah.
Will that be February 4th?
For February 10th is the next
February 10th.
meeting, and it'll be here in this room.
Yeah, whenever we schedule it in that other room, I don't know how to make it like really bold or something on the agenda that we're meeting somewhere else, just because
Yeah,
we're used to meeting here, so.
well, it'll always be in the email communication that comes from us. We'll
Yeah.
say the location. It'll be on the county website as well. We could also put signs, like.
Okay.
Like we can put one up here that says, people
Yeah,
actually
that'd
come
help,
here, we can.
Yeah.
Direct them back down there.
Okay.
But yeah, 12 to 2 p.m. Tuesdays, monthly. It's pretty much the same until there's a need to have it at a different location and time, you know, we can find.
Janice, are we able to schedule site visits?
Yeah, I believe so. We've done a few of those with other action committees.
Does it have to be a hearing at the same time? Or we're gonna have quorum issues if we do site visits, everybody's gotta be there?
Typically,
Or
it's
you have that
been through
quorum?
a permitted interaction group.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't think there'd have to be quorum issues, but if it's a meeting organized specifically for the Kona CDP AC, that'd have to be public notice.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
But if there were only, if there weren't a quorum, we could still do it.
You just couldn't make any decisions, you could.
no. But it'll help inform us, at least if we go on site visits, you can actually see if there's something specific on the agenda that we're gonna talk about. Then we can actually see it, feel it, and people maybe can turn out, to give us. Cause I've been on like punk meetings where they go do a site visit to see, and you get a lot of input, or you can, so I just thought it would be. It might be something you can stick in our back pocket.
yeah. Like, for example, Ka'u, they had a permitted interaction group established for the Hilea acquisition.
Right.
So only a few, I think 2 members were involved in that, and then there were other people in the community who also expressed interest in visiting. So that's possible, but it's typically done through a permitted interaction.
Any other discussion on this? Thanks everyone for planning, for organizing this and coming all the way over here again. I appreciate it.
How often does this committee meet?
We meet monthly, every month on the second Tuesdays, I believe. Yeah,
Is that throughout the year?
yes, and it's posted on the county calendar. All of our meetings with the agendas are posted on there. Yeah, but yeah, it's every second Tuesday throughout the year. And so most of the time it's gonna be in here. We have been getting another venue down there. Like, that's what I was trying to tell staff to make sure we post that so that people can come and know where we're at.
Site visiting is a good idea.
Mhm.
You have a full, number on your committee?
I believe we are 1 vacant at the moment, or maybe 2. I think 2 vacant as of now.
So
Yeah.
total, what is your count?
Well, total we're supposed to have 9. And then right now we are currently at 6. And I think someone else might be coming on soon, but then
Will
9.
be 7?
Shane will be 6. 6, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I guess 7, but one of them doesn't show up. Rosalind hasn't showed up for a lot of meetings, so she might be coming off. So. Okay, I'm gonna close this agenda item. So number 5, we have public testimony matters not on the agenda. The time is 2:06. The committee will now call for statements from the public regarding items not on the agenda. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes in length per agenda item. That might be per testimony item. If there is anyone here who'd like to testify, please fill out the form, give it to our staff. Is there any testimony on matters not on the agenda? Janice, see your hand up.
Are we going to take up the Keaho development, the Kamehameha Schools Keaho development after they come out with their SMA? How are we handling that issue?
I think I think the idea, and especially with county coming to provide the SMA info to us, was that so if we feel like we would like to testify, we have all the knowledge of the SMA process. So
The county said that they didn't have it on the schedule. They haven't submitted anything yet to the county. And so I said that we'd really like to know in advance before it got scheduled so that we could decide if we want to respond or not. So that's the way it was left.
So I think you might have brought it up, Nancy, of having somebody come from Kamehameha Schools to give the action committee an update maybe before they have their SMA. Is that an option, or what does anybody think about that?
I have input. If
Um,
anyone else doesn't want to speak right now.
Sorry, so Janice, you're asking if we're gonna invite anyone from Kamehameha Schools to come speak?
Yeah, if that is something that you're you know, I mean, it was brought up, so I'm not sure. And I wonder about the timing of the SMA, you know, those two things. It's like if we could have them come and talk, that might, you know, give us a better window into what's happening, maybe before they unveil the SMA, because I just don't know what the time frame will be, if we'll have time for a meeting, AC meeting, and then the next, I guess it'll be planning commission meetings, you know, just want to make sure we kind of keep the ball rolling, keep the information going out to the public.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to think about, but
The planner that gave us the presentation thought that he would be getting a heads up quite a long ways in advance of it actually getting submitted to the planning commission. So I kind of felt like we'd have ample time to decide what to do based on that. And I emailed him back and forth about that, and he said he hasn't heard that they're close to submitting anything even to the planning department yet. And he thought it'd be sometime this spring, whatever that means. But so I kind of thought I'd keep tabs with him and get a heads up from him to decide, you know, because I'd like to know some idea of what it is they're gonna be applying for.
They'd like to do.
One's an SMA and one's a shoreline setback. And he didn't say, he said that he didn't even know specifically what parcels they were gonna impact.
They are having great input from the people.
Okay, thanks.
It's not a done deal,
No, it isn't. That's why
not a done deal. So again, I take it back to the discussions for the community. I'm letting you know that we are going to be having big communications and you might as well know about it. You know what? It's God's way to have everything known in the right time. And here it is. The Kamehameha schools, the kingdom, all of it in this light of day. To the people who overthrew our queen. To the people who are still greedy and not thinking of people from here.
Thanks, everybody. Mahalo. And
Thank you.
everyone, thanks for staying over time.
certainly let everybody know when we hear something.
Sometimes it just has to erupt, you know? Like a flame, like the lava. Sometimes it has to erupt. And this is one of those times. I represent that great source of ours, and you better believe that I will not mince any words. And if you don't get it on the first round, shame on you.
we're gonna move on to agenda item 6, which is the third-party reports. The time is 2:10. The committee will now call for statements from third-party reports from any government official not included on the agenda. Guessing we don't have any, because I don't see anyone here. All right. Proposed new business. Do any action committee members have any items they'd like to consider for a future meeting?
I do.
Yeah.
I had some items that I proposed to be on this agenda that, I was told were removed. And one of them had to do with the downtown Kailua Kona area needing a redevelopment plan. I don't know if you guys have been through downtown recently, but it's getting old and decrepit and unsafe. And the reason that I got for not having it on the agenda is that the code already has areas in the code that allow redevelopment. The problem is that the code is poorly written. And let me explain to you why. For renovations under section 25-464, it says that you can maintain and replace to the extent necessary to keep it in sound condition, provided the work shall not exceed 25% of the current replacement value of such building in any one calendar year. Replacement value is not the same as replacement cost. When a building gets old and run down, it has very little value. So the problem is you're limiting these buildings to a very finite, small number that it can do for renovation in any one year. And this becomes a very large problem when you look at downtown, because we have several buildings that if they cannot do this, they have to be brought up completely to current code. They cannot be, because the buildings take up too much of their land space and they cannot provide on-site parking. The problem, and what this part of the code is going to do, is going to create a slump. Because if you're a landowner and you cannot renovate your building, you're just gonna keep milking rent money out of it until it falls into the ground. And I'll give you a good example, Uncle Billy's Hotel in Hilo. The taxpayers will end up removing these buildings at the end of their life because the owner will be long gone. This needs to be rethought and reevaluated because this code is not workable. I'll give you a very good example. The Kona Inn was under contract to be purchased. The owner had his architect walk through the property, came back and said, no, we can't renovate or replace this building because of this code. Fell out of escrow. The guy walked away. Nobody's going to renovate that building with this code in place.
Yeah, and this actually came up at a planning commission meeting recently, where the old Splashers, I can't remember the name of the restaurant now, but they were trying to renovate that place, and they said they couldn't meet the parking minimums, basically, so they're trying to get a variance on that. I think this wasn't on the agenda just for a couple of reasons. One, the agenda was full, as you can see, we're already over time, so I think that was part of it. Two was, I think, about the way we were trying to figure out the best way to approach it. Should it be through a special zoning that removes things like parking minimums like they have in downtown Hilo? Or should we start, a redevelopment plan would be big and probably involve other people. Is it the Kailua Village
They have
Design?
Kailua,
I think they're meeting
Village
like right now.
Design Committee.
And will we
but-
need to bring them on? I think these are the
And
questions.
maybe we
had.
do, maybe, but our community needs big things and big ideas.
Mhm.
To keep shelving things because, oh, this is hard or this is big, just means nothing gets done.
Yeah.
We should at least start a discussion.
Mhm.
And we really need to work on this because that downtown area is becoming hazardous. I've been in lots of these buildings. I remember leaning in one restaurant up against a supporting post. The electric box was on the other side. The post was a 6x6 post. It was hot. That's because the electric box isn't wired properly.
Yeah.
Okay? There's tons of buildings down there where their supporting members are chewed up from termites or rickety, and
It sounds like it needs to be condemned.
well, they may be, but this code doesn't let you fix the problems. Because you've created a code that reduces the amount of money you can spend to such a finite number that they really can't do anything. And then to say that you can only do that amount in any given year, well, who wants to take on a project that lasts 5 years? If you need to renovate, you want to do it all at once. Time is money. Even if this code was replaced with the word replacement cost instead of replacement value, it would make a lot more sense. But replacement value is not defined anywhere in the code. The only place I've ever seen it defined is in for FEMA. FEMA has a similar code for buildings in floodways. They define that, and it's onerous.
I just don't know what to do.
Yeah, actually, why is the code written that way? What was the purpose?
I think they stole this straight out of FEMA's handbook for development and redevelopment in floodways. And the reason FEMA developed that plan is they don't want you to build in floodways. So if you have to develop more than 25% or more than 50% of the replacement value, you can't, because they don't want it there. But that's not what you want in our downtown area. You want them to redevelop. You want those buildings repaired. You want it to look nice. You don't want it to look like it looks right now.
So it was the FEMA writing that they took.
So you're talking about the buildings in the flood zone?
No, I'm talking about the buildings just downtown, because those buildings were built before zoning came into place. A lot of them take up the whole site.
Yeah.
So they don't have on-site parking, and if you cannot meet this onerous financial requirement, you have to meet the whole requirements of the code, which means you have to provide on-site parking, and all of a sudden, you can't renovate.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure how you define downtown.
The area between, King Kamehameha Schools and Walua Road up to Kuakini Highway and down to the
Oh, I
ocean.
see.
Yeah, and like I was saying, this came up at that planning commission meeting.
Right.
Some people wanted to renovate down there and they had to, the parking minimum was, they were trying to get a variance because they had to fulfill the parking minimum, they had to pave down all, they had to tear down all the buildings just to pave it with a parking lot, so.
Parking issues, you know.
Right, and that's all mixed in, yeah.
You have people that are trying to utilize this business.
But you know what's worse than having a parking problem, not having enough parking, is having too much parking.
Mhm.
When people stop going downtown, cause it looks like crap.
'Cause you're just, yeah.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
not saying on a Levy Drive, I'm
Yeah.
saying.
So I'm in agreement with your,
Something right here, you know, there's a program that says. Kokua Kailua. I have told these people that for us, our language is most important. There's nothing wrong with Kailua. It needs no help. Kako is the word support, right? But people don't pay attention to Hawaiian. They don't pay attention to the values. And you know, sir, when you talk about the condition of repair, think about the repair of the oceans when the ships come in. And what has happened because of those stupid ships. All because of Pakamaka Ikikala. You cannot place a value on Hawaii. But oh, people say they can. You most definitely do every day. You folks. But we are telling you that you really cannot. And what you're talking about here, I can appreciate. This has been a discussion over many years. The design committee, they do not respect Ahuanahio. Let us talk. This is right in Kailua. Let me just give you that input. Kako o Kailua instead of Kokua. Kailua doesn't need help. The buildings do, all because of, you know, what happens in these discussions here of like longevity of buildings.
yeah, so I think we all feel agreement, you know, with what you're saying with these buildings do need help and the code is restricting. I saw that very plain watching the planning commission meeting, so. That's what I was kind of wondering is the best way, and maybe we should just put this on the agenda item because we're kind of discussing it a lot. I think the bigger thing was we had a lot on the agenda, yeah.
And my suggestion would be, okay, not that we start with a proposal, let's start with the discussion.
Yeah.
Cause you can't solve the problem without at least talking.
Yeah, totally. So it should be something that's put on maybe the next agenda item.
Why do we need charging for parking? Why is that necessary? Uncle Billy didn't have that. Why is it necessary to charge? Yeah.
Does anyone else have any items to add to the next agenda? Yeah.
You guys on this one? So because this topic, I feel like, it's a timely, really timely act, considering planning department is going through their zoning code update. I know other ACs have proposed other kind of code amendments and director has already accepted them and forwarded them on to consultants for review throughout this process. So that to me is looking where this might be headed towards already. But I feel like you guys are kind of just at the tip of the iceberg with it. RJ, with you brought up, I'm sure it'll lead to further discussions and more, you know, and then you'll start with, you know, a whole bunch of things. And it might be more efficient to kind of get a like to like doing the work kind of outside of these meetings and not bringing it to the full committee until you have like kind of a little bit more narrowed and focused things that you want their opinion on. I feel like maybe there's a few of you guys that might have more of a specialty in this and might be more interested in working together on it. And or people outside of this committee that might be interested in chiming in on this. So that kind of leads me towards thinking like, maybe not necessarily a permitted interaction group, because maybe not 3 or 4 of you are interested in diving into it, but maybe 1 or 2 might be interested, and there might be people out in the community that you're already like, you might want to bring into this conversation, and you guys can do some, you know, out of meeting conversations and working groups to kind of really narrow in on these and actually come up with like some highlighted sections of proposed amendments. And even I think the first level is if you want that special district or just code amendments is gonna be sufficient, you know, like kind of going down those paths. And I think a lot of that work is better done outside of this, because those are like, I imagine, hour-long sessions, multiple sessions,
Some background research type work.
to
and-
do all of that background work essentially.
So how do we go about that? We create a subcommittee?
You don't need to create a you could. It's the most complicated way though, but like, if, it depends who's interested on working on this with you, I'm assuming you would be involved in this. But if it's just you and one other person on the committee working on this, then you don't need to do anything, you guys can just start going and like doing this research already.
And we meet the requirements of the sunshine.
I don't have to worry about it with the amendments we made.
But if you want a third person, then you're gonna have to go the permitted interaction route. And which is fine, right? There's no timeline, there's no, you know, whatever, and then you can still be working with whoever outside of this committee as well.
Could you repeat that? What did you just say?
That they could create a permitted interaction group, or if 3 or more of them are interested in working on this topic. So that's, I think, we can't create the pig today if that's what your guys are interested in doing, but we can definitely put on the agenda to create the pig, or, you know, we can kind of figure out if just you wanna do it, or if you got one other person that you wanna kind of work on this and brainstorm some strategies, but. And as always, planning is available to help with these out of meeting conversations.
I think that's a very good idea to have a small working group. That brings in maybe some outside expertise
For sure.
to tell us how this should best be done.
And if you know of any of the folks that are on like
So
Kailua Village Design Commission folks, to look at the list of, if you know any of them, it'd be good to reach out. Cause some of those people have been sitting in that committee for years.
I know that some of them,
It might be good to get their response to this initiative.
You recall when Kelly Greenwell brought forward the discussion of restoring Kailua and restoring Kaiakeapua Beach? You remember that?
I remember it's been going on for years and years.
so do we need to put that, do we need a motion to do that, or?
Or you could just start.
Yeah, I think you just start, we can't,
I volunteer for that committee if you're getting that, the PIG means pig, you know?
we'd have to, if we wanted to do a pig, we'd have to put that, we can't do that
But
today.
you could just start doing it casually on your own if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah,
I'll bring you back information at the next meeting.
awesome,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
We would put it on the agenda so we could
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting, and if you guys would.
have that discussion, including treating beef.
Yeah.
And then, cause then by then you have an idea if you're
Yeah,
wanting to
then,
go.
you know, I just can bring us back on. the
Yeah,
information.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing this forward, RJ, I think it's important also.
And lastly, I thought we were going to keep the comprehensive review of the community development plan on the agenda. We might not have had anything to discuss this thing, but this time, but having it passed, I don't want it to be forgotten.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be on the next agenda because the director will be coming to that meeting,
Okay.
so open Q&A as well. And then I'll attach, he responded, so I'll attach that communication to that meeting next
Okay.
month.
Yeah, it'd be good to not put a bunch of stuff on that agenda
Yeah.
so that we can focus on that issue when he's here. 'Cause we
Yeah.
don't get him to show up.
About this, if you have some proposed language next month, we can bring it out with him as well, since he'll be here. That
Okay.
can be valuable.
Thank you.
awesome, thanks, RJ. Anything else? And as always, if something comes up, you can email planning, then we'll put it on, discuss at the meeting.
I'd like to enlighten us with a quote from Winston Churchill. I like pigs. Dogs look up to us, cats look down on us. Pigs are our equals.
Thank you, Lana.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I like that
I
too.
like that, because we've been discriminating against the word me, in putting on.
I don't like it. I don't like that it's called PIG.
Yeah.
I don't like the way you're looking at the original picture.
His
Animals are
better one
different.
is success is moving from failure to failure, but not losing enthusiasm.
Okay, last thing real quick, the planning department and announcements, the planning department is currently seeking applicants for the Kona CDP Action Committee. Requesting assistance in spreading the word to community members, you can go to the mayor's office website to the boards to apply. The planning director is scheduled to attend the February meeting, and that meeting will be on Tuesday, February 10th. Any other announcements?
So is he coming to Kona? Is he gonna be on Zoom?
He'll be coming to Kona.
Oh, nice. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All right, motion by RJ, seconded by Charlie. Everyone please vote by saying aye. Aye, opposed, none. The time is 2:28. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you, Janice. Thank you, Cabello.